everybody. Today I'm talking about challenging transits. This is a workshop I did for Shivananda, Los Angeles. And I talked about, what makes for a challenging transit and how to deal with it. And I focused on challenging transits for the year, for the month, for the day. And in this, I have studied the transits for 2023 as well. Hello, I'm Komilla Sutton, and I'm talking about challenging transits. Do remember to subscribe, press the bell notification. So you see, in a year, we have a number of challenging planets that are connected to Saturn's transit, to Rahu Ketu, Mars. So trying to understand them, then trying to cope with them, that is a key to Jyotish, so that we are aware of the turbulence of our times. And this lecture that I gave, this is very much about dealing with it, how to recognize what is challenging, and, especially with the concentration on 2023. So let us explore.
Today, at this online program for the Shivananda Vedanta, LA, Los Angeles, and we're talking challenging planets. And this photograph that I have here is, if you could mute yourself, please, I'll see if I can mute you guys. Yeah. So we're talking today about challenging planets, and this photograph I have is of the Navagraha from the Livermore temple. This Livermore temple, they've had a redo everything. They call it Kumbhabhishekam, and the Navagrahas are very beautiful there. And I got this lovely picture, and the one right in front is Saturn. So when we are talking challenging planets, we're always concerned about Saturn as well. We are going to do the chanting, and Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirviknam Kurume Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvada. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahman Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Adityaya Somaya Mangalaya Budhaya Cha Guru Shukra Shanibhyascha Rahuve Ketave Namaha. Om Japa Kusum Sankasham Kashyapeyam Mahadvitim Tamorim Sarva Papagnam Pranato Asmi Divakaram. So I'm going to talk about challenging planets, challenging transits, really. I was thinking of discussing a little bit about 2023 in this seminar as well for you. And just to tell you that these are my books. Many of you may already know that I've written these books, and you can get them from my website, komilla.com. And these are my courses starting next year. So, understanding the transits really is the best gift we can give ourselves. Transits reveal the quality of time we live in, its weakness and strengths. Knowing the quality of time helps us navigate the difficult and weak times, making the right choices so that we do not weaken ourselves or create more problems. I think this is one of the most important things. This year, I did a advanced course on transits, because the transits tend to get lost sometimes, especially in Vedic astrology. But the whole idea of understanding the transits is that we can make a good decision about what we are doing, and therefore we know what is the quality of time. And secondly, the transits, they are all the time doing things very much like our life, very hectic, always changing, always doing something different. And therefore, if we don't know that, and then plus if we add it to our own life, we think, oh my God, there's two things together, that we have our own hectic life and the transits are always changing, and they are influencing us. And so in Vedic astrology, we use Mahurata to elect auspicious time to get maximum positive results from essential activities as you begin them at the best available time. The point about Mahurata is that you think, I'm starting this activity, very important to me, let me choose a good time, and then I can, move to doing, make a good choice. But what I'm talking today also is that it's also to teach you to go beyond Mahurata, to understand the complete quality of time that we live in and learn to flow with cosmic energy. So for example, tomorrow is a lunar eclipse. So just the fact that we may know that it is happening tomorrow, then it makes us decide what choices we are going to do. Obviously, for Mahurata planning, Mahurata is, those who don't know, is just selecting auspicious time. So for Mahurata planning, definitely we won't use the eclipse. But for what about our just day-to-day choices and things, sometimes quite important choices, which we don't think, oh, we have to do the complex Mahuratas. So to understand this aspect that is there. And the secret of the transits is that the correct use of transits will be like giving vitamins to your chart. While you cannot do anything about your birth chart and the quality of what you might have inherited, you can enjoy the strengths of the planets and windows of opportunities they represent. Minimize the weakness of time to take precautions, do remedies to manage the challenging transits. Now, I am a chairperson of, or also the founder of the British Association of Vedic Astrology. And we have been doing conferences there for many, many years. And somewhere right at the beginning is like 25 years or more we have done conferences. Somewhere right at the beginning, we had a very great Indian teacher who spoke about the transits as a secret knowledge from the Nadi astrology. And I always used to watch transits, but after listening to him, he's no longer with us, but after listening to him, I realized that we're missing out something. So I added lots more things to it. And so the main thing, obviously, that we have to understand is that when there are some weaknesses, then we do need to watch for that. So knowing the transits is not about predicting what is happening, but about understanding time. Sometimes people always saying, why don't you predict something? I said, that's not what I'm looking for in life. I'm looking for a good quality of life. I want to minimize my negative things so that I can, enjoy what life has to offer. And if I predict something's going to happen to me 2 years from now, what does it matter? If I don't enjoy it today. So I think that when you're looking at this, you can also predict. I'm not saying that. And I also do that at times. But the main thing is to understand the quality of time. What is this time telling us, and what is the best way for looking at the time is to look at the transits, because that is what is the most important factor in the transits. So in Vedic astrology, dasha is the most crucial component. Dashas and transits must be combined to know the complete experience. But many study the dashas and ignore the transits. That is only knowing half the picture. If we know the quality of transits, it supports everyday life, because the transits are doing exactly what we are doing, but they are breaking, sometimes bringing some obstacles, sometimes bringing opportunities, because that is how the time is working, and that is the greatest advantage of being an astrologer, and why we want to know astrology is we want to know what is the time doing. No other place you can judge what time is doing to us than astrology. So when you're studying the transits, there are many considerations to make. First, study the quality of the Navagrahas, and then know how they are going to impact you. Uh, which planet will impact us most? The quality of the Navagraha as a whole. There are many harmful yogas that is happening collectively. Yoga, Kal Sarpa Yoga, Mars Saturn conjunction, which is called Yama Yoga. What we want to know is the extreme behavior of planets. Sometimes negativity lasts for a short time. It all sorts itself out. However, the challenges, when the challenges pile up, planetary weather is very powerfully adverse. So actually, the thing is just like with life and things, or we meet people, if people have some idiosyncrasies or some little bit, it doesn't make so much difference. But when that is very dramatic and very difficult, then it is, if they get extreme. So that is really what you are wanting to study, the extreme behavior or prolonged behavior that is happening again and again. That is things that are happening. The strengths and weaknesses of planets during difficult transits, difficult conjunctions, and eclipses. And for an astrologer, living life and studying the planets, that is a class in itself. This has happened. How did I react? How did the world react? What are the things that are happening at any given time? Uh, the key transits being experienced to the moon and the ascendant, sun and the ascendant. Saturn's transit like Sade Sati, Ashtama Shani, Kantaka Shani, Saturn's transit tend to activate the karmic issues. We need to be prepared. Eclipses that are transiting over sun, moon, or ascendant, challenging transits over other planets must be studied too. So, there are a number of things that you can look at, when you're studying the key transits. Favorable transits of the Lagna Lord. Varshapal annual chart is a snapshot of what we'll experience during the coming year from one birthday to another. So if we just look at what is happening today, and so this is the, one sec, I'll just make a bigger chart here. So this is what is happening right now. We can see Saturn is on the ascendant, and so he is the most important planet right now. But Saturn is in Capricorn. Mars, you can see here, just went retrograde. Jupiter's retrograde, and Moon is already with Rahu. So he is coming up to full moon and coming up to an eclipse. And you can also see Ketu and Venus are together. But all these planets in Libra, opposite to the moon. So number of factors, when you look at the transits, you want to study the chart, and obviously you do need to have knowledge, and you need to know Jyotish. You can't just say, oh, Saturn is in Capricorn, this is going to happen. Every year we have one or two highly challenging issues. In 2022, 2 times have extreme quality of challenging planets. February, March 2022, there were red flag warnings of a highly troublesome time where decisions needed to be made carefully. And you can look back to this time, uh, February 2022, and what has happened. We forget day-to-day activity, but we won't forget the Ukraine war that's happened at that time. And it was very clear that there was going to be some big disturbance at that time. And now this is, at present, we are living through a very turbulent period. October, November has eclipses, Ketu conjunctions, Mars retrograde. But I first want to show you the February, March 2022. And just to show you what was happening at that time. So if we go back to February, March 2022, this was, anybody as an astrologer, we could see it was a really complicated time. And sometimes, the history even of the planets informs us what is happening. And if we go here, so this is 6th of February 2022. You see Venus and Mars are close together here. But if we go to 13th of February, now Mars, Venus become into a planetary war. And you can see they're now at the same degree. If I go 21st of February, they are moving forward, but at the same degree. This is called a planetary war. And then if I go, this is 21st, 28th of February. Now you see here, all the planets have gone into 2 signs. And this was approximately the time when the Ukraine war took place. And Rahu Ketu are creating a Kal Sarpa Yoga. So as an astrologer, you know that this is going to be very challenging time. And sometimes the minus point can be because the world is huge. You don't know where the challenge is going to come unless you're observing that country or that area for a long time. But usually I will read the news and see what are the issues that are coming up at that time. And I will see from that what are the aspects that are taking place. And if we go 1 month later to this, you see now Venus, Saturn are together, and Mars and Saturn conjunction is going to happen. So we see right from February to March, almost early April, the planets were very unsteady and very difficult and conflicted and also aggressive. So, every year this is something that we already know. The problem is that you can know the technical information, how to interpret it is what it is. And then now October, November, which is we are living it now, and which is why I wanted to talk about this lecture. So getting to know what the planets are up to has to be studied and planned every year. First, we should have to study the year. Then we must narrow the time frame to know monthly, weekly, daily transits. There's a lot to be work to be done in the planning. Now, I am doing an annual 2023 lecture. I think it's 7th of January. I didn't have time to share it, but it's on my website. You can book up there. I'm talking about 2023. But, you know, it's not something that you can just do. You need to spend time, few days really. Sometimes we miss some things and then they come to you later on as well. But it is important to know that what are the things happening. And we can look at the 2023 transit. So before I look at, okay, I'll look at the planets right now later, but we can start with an overview. What is the theme of the year? Usually some months are challenging each year and others are easier to deal with. It would help if you often went to the following year's analysis, as planets can change in the coming year and it's crucial to know the information. So in essence, in order to make a decision for 2022, you want to know what's happening in 23. In order to make a decision for 2023, you need to know what's happening in 2024. But the theme of 2023, Saturn moves into Aquarius, 17th of January, remains there. Jupiter is in Pisces, Aries, passing through Gandanta. Jupiter, Rahu, there's a Guru Chandala yoga by transit. Intense in May, remains to October. Rahu Ketu in Aries, Libra to October, and then retrograde back to Pisces, Virgo, and Rahu goes through Gandanta in October 2023. So basically what is happening in 2023 is that the big guns, all the big guns, you could say Saturn, Jupiter, and Rahu Ketu, they all change signs. Saturn in January, Jupiter in April, and Rahu Ketu in October. So when we are looking at that, but the key factor is that Jupiter Rahu, our conjunction is called the Guru Chandala Yoga. And the Guru Chandala Yoga is when Jupiter Rahu are together. And last time they were together, they had a very intense experience, 2016. So what I said earlier was that we have to look at extreme behavior of planets. You see, when a planet conjoins and they move on, it's just like you have a little skirmish, you've moved on. But if the planets are in extreme behavior pattern, then that is what we are going to look at. So in 2016, Jupiter, Rahu were together, tightly constructed and conjoined for 6 months together. And one of the big results of it was Brexit in UK. They cut away from Europe. And now UK is suffering because of that decision. But the main thing was this, because Jupiter's the guru and Rahu is the non-guru, we could say, radical guru. So Rahu is was saying, don't trust the gurus, don't trust the experts on these subjects, because all experts said there is going to be recession, there's going to be loss of earning, there's going to be all sorts, but the politicians and the people who were wanting their agenda passed said, don't listen to them. And in USA also, that time was the emergence of Donald Trump and the extreme kind of right-wing, I would say non-polite politics. But I feel that this Guru Chandala yoga that is going to take place in Aries is going to resolve some of those issues. Now, this is something that we have to see how it happens. You know, we have to observe that this transit, that how it is going to behave itself, and not just say, oh, that is what is going to happen. This is my thinking, that that particular Brexit, because what has happened now, because I used to live in UK, so I have a good knowledge of that country, that the economy is very poor, and the Bank of England has said that there's going to be the biggest recession that UK hasn't had since 100 years. And for the time from 2016 to now, people were not discussing, you know, this whole Brexit situation. And now those experts who had warned at that time are telling that, you know, we had said this. So sometimes Rahu is so bigger than life, so huge, that he can overpower everything. And right now we are going to experience his transit. So 2023, once every 7 years, you get a Rahu Jupiter transit, and we are going to live through it. And what we have to think is that how are we going to react to it? Because, you know, when people are feeding you wrong information, then it's also our responsibility of how we take that information. So that is most important to consider and think about. In 2023, all planets will retrograde. So generally, Rahu Ketu always move retrograde, but all the 5 planets that are possible. Sun, Moon never retrograde, and Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn, they will all retrograde next year. So that is not unusual, but Venus and Mars retrograde once every 2 years. So therefore, the year all planets retrograde, then that becomes a significant year. And then there are many Gandanta crossings. April, Jupiter, Pisces, Aries. July to September, Venus will transit thrice over Cancer, Leo, Gandanta. October, Rahu will go Aries to Pisces. And November to January 2023, Mercury will go over thrice over Scorpio, Sagittarius, Gandanta. So those of you who don't know what Gandanta is, I'll just show you also by the chart. Gandanta is when planets transit between water and fire signs. So this is, you can see here. So this is regarded as a spiritual knot position, very much like a granthi, you could say. You know, these are karmic knots that we have to overcome them. And when planets cross over that point, it is releases sometimes negative stuff, but it also releases us from our old habits or old issues. And so Jupiter is going over Gandanta, but the good news is that he just goes over it. He doesn't, you know, one could say flirt with that degree. Sometimes they'll do 3 times. And then we go a little bit later, and Venus is more significant because Venus in July, we can see here, see right here, July, Cancer to Leo. So Cancer is water sign, Leo is fire sign. And Venus, see there, we see, so this once is fine, it does it every year. Sun, Mercury, and Venus will do once a year. They go through all the Gandantas. But what is significant about Venus is that Venus is going to go forward, and then it retrogrades, and then it'll go back over the Gandanta point. Sorry, I need to go backwards here. So if you see Venus here, so this is 6th of August, there's Venus second time. And then a month later, when it goes direct, then it will go over a third time over the Gandanta. So then it becomes very significant that Venus, the two gurus in Vedic astrology, Jupiter, Venus are the two gurus. So both are going over Gandanta. And then that is not enough. So here we see this is 2nd of October, 1st of October, Venus is exactly Gandanta. And then at the end of the month, Rahu is going to go over Gandanta. So here we see Rahu is very significant because Rahu will cross over Aries to Pisces. And for Rahu, that is mm, a new transit for it, a new thing that the Rahu has to deal with. So that is a very significant transit. So we see, and Mercury, I won't show that to you, but these are the Gandanta positions next year. And this is what I was telling you, that learning about transit is not easy. You have to make a lot of effort to look every month to see what are happening and noting it down so that then you have a month-to-month idea about what is happening. So the softwares nowadays are very helpful. Without the softwares, we wouldn't know what to do. So this is 2023, and you see that this is this is Sri Jyoti Star. This is the software I use. And you can see all the planets, how they are moving. Here, Jupiter, 21st of April moves into Aries. So you know Pisces to Aries is Gandanta. You can see that. Then Venus, you can see all the dates of Venus. Venus, 6th of July goes through Cancer to Leo, then retrogrades back 6th of August, and then goes direct and goes past Gandanta 1st of October. So, this is only recent that Sri Jyoti Star has added this, and it is very useful because you can look at everything right here. Saturn, 17th of January into Aquarius. So you get this overall view, and you can be precisely noting down the important things. You can see here moon changes too so quickly, so that's not something that you can look at, but you can look at the bigger picture, because we have to start with the bigger picture and then go slower into the more like what's happening today. Like today and tomorrow, moon is with Rahu, eclipse is on, so we know that today and tomorrow can be emotionally challenging or upsetting. So let us move on. So yearly planning for Saturn, because Saturn is the major challenge in the planets. When we want to see what are the challenging planets, we want to see what Saturn is doing in the year. So what do you want to see about it? What is his transit? So right now, Saturn is in Capricorn. He has just moved direct, and he's completing his journey in Capricorn. He is going to finish on 17th of January. So it's the last bit of Capricorn. He started Capricorn at the start of COVID. So therefore, I think this is quite significant as far as COVID is concerned as well. And Saturn goes into Aquarius in January 2023. Saturn does not move signs every year. His sign change is significant as he impacts different areas of the zodiac and different planets and houses. Its change is vital in analyzing Sadesati. Some people will lose the intensity, others will gain it. So in Sadesati, I like to look at the year uh, or the time when Saturn is transiting over the ascendant. So 17th January, if we are planning for Saturn, 17th January 2023, Saturn moves into Aquarius. So, and I'm going to talk about it. And so anyway, let's look at 2023. And 17th, Saturn moves into Aquarius, 17th January. And then Saturn's conjunctions, all faster moving planets will conjoin with Saturn. Their dates should be noted as they are all problematic days. No major conjunction in 2023. What do I mean by major conjunction? That means there's no Saturn, Jupiter, there is no Saturn, Rahu Ketu conjunction next year. So faster moving planets Saturn does every year. So 21st January, Venus, Saturn, 15th February, combustion of Saturn with Sun in Capricorn. Oh, sorry, it should be Aquarius. 2nd of March, Mercury, Saturn conjunction. All conjunctions are in Aquarius. So I just need to take this out. So combustion is in everything is in Aquarius. Next year, anything that Saturn is up to is in Aquarius. Jupiter planning for 2020 planning remains in one sign for the year. Therefore, we know he'll change sign in some part of the year. So usually his influence is on two signs and is positive, so we look forward to it. However, at times Jupiter rushes through a sign and can be in three signs in a year. And one of the things that you'll see in later part of the 2020s is that Jupiter and Saturn are going to be very unsettled. They are going to go into different signs quickly, retrograde back, go forward, retrograde back to different signs. So that is promising some unsettled energy for the future. But Saturn is going to, Jupiter usually is in two signs. So for example, 2022, it was Aquarius and Pisces. 23, it is Pisces and Aries. In 2023, Jupiter is in Pisces, Aries. Jupiter is in its own sign. Therefore, this is a special time of Jupiter influence. From 18th to 24th April, the end of Pisces is Gandanta. Jupiter's Gandanta, 21st April, Jupiter goes into Aries. So that particular transition time actually in Aries also is not the easiest time, because it is also then Jupiter in Aries, Rahu is placed there. So we have Jupiter in Aries. So 26th, 27th May, Jupiter Rahu conjunction, Guru Chandala Yoga. 1st March, Venus, Jupiter and Pisces. Venus is exalted. 27th March, Mercury, Jupiter and Pisces. 11th April, combustion with the Sun in Pisces. So these are the various conjunctions, but the one that I've highlighted is the Jupiter Rahu conjunction and the Guru Chandala Yoga. Guru means Guru and Chandala means outsider. So when Rahu, who's the outsider, he comes with Jupiter, then that is not considered a positive influence. I think in a modern term, we may be quite okay, because we are looking at unusual things and unusual aspects of, interest in foreign cultures, foreign ideas, different things. Where it becomes damaging is where people are trying to influence your thinking in the wrong way. So we have to be aware of that. Rahu Ketu does not change signs every year. The change of sign means that the eclipses are now influencing different signs and different areas of your life. So You see, this is what you do is you're doing the yearly planning, and then you look at what is Rahu Ketu up to. So in 2023, Rahu Ketu are in Aries, Libra to October. So Rahu Ketu stay in one sign for 18 months. 14th October to 14th November, Rahu will go through Gandanta in Aries, and 30th October, Rahu Ketu retrograde to Pisces, Virgo. I use mean node. Dates change of signs of true and moon node will be different, but I have always used mean node and it has worked well for me. There are two calculations for Rahu Ketu. There's a mean node and a true node. So, so you see that like right now, the eclipses are in Aries, Libra. Next year, after October, the eclipses will go into Pisces, Virgo. So if you have any important planets or your ascendant or moon sign in Pisces, Virgo, then that means that you can expect some changes, that you have to look at that and think that there can be some changes in your life at that time. So these are the eclipses for 2023. 19th April, there's an eclipse, solar eclipse. Then 5th of May, there's a lunar eclipse, penumbral lunar eclipse. 14th October is an annular solar eclipse. Now the 14th October eclipse, sun will be in Virgo. So although Rahu is still in, Ketu is still in Libra, the distance is enough for the eclipse to take place. You see, Rahu Ketu, they have to be at a certain distance for the eclipse to take place. So 14th October is the first Virgo eclipse that we are having, and 28th of October uh, is a partial lunar eclipse. So basically, of course, if you have birthdays around that time, then there are some significant changes that the eclipses can bring. Change doesn't have to be negative. It can be positive as well, but it's usually unexpected. We can't plan for anything that the eclipse will bring. It's not what we normally expect, especially if we have a straightforward eclipse. That means it's close to the degrees of our planets. So study the overall picture, of the retrogrades. Are there any significant signatures? All 5 planets turn retrograde. Therefore, the day planets turn retrograde and direct is significant. So there was a question about what does retrograde planets mean? And you see, when planets are, it's just like you're going forward and you back your car. So you have to stop, you have to back, and you go over old ground. So when a planet turns retrograde, he becomes a bit eccentric. He becomes different and he moves backward. So sometimes he pulls you back and you rethink whatever project you were thinking about, and then he will go forward. And at times when a planet goes forward, he's full of energy and he's full of things that are um, wanting to make things happen. So that is a important aspect for it to consider when planets are retrograde. Now you can have retrograde in your birth chart, or all of us experience retrograde. So today in the class, we are talking about when planets go retrograde. So you see right now, Mars is retrograde. It just went retrograde on 30th. That means if you think about what happened on 30th or around that, there was some lot of things that happened on 30th, 31st. There was that big Halloween tragedy in Seoul. There was a bridge collapse in India. Hundreds, I think 150 people died in both the cases, and the crowd getting out of control. And on the day of Mars turning retrograde. And then there was something in Somalia as well. Here in California, that was the day when um, around that day when Paul Pelosi had a violent attack on him. And so, these things, they can sometimes be very difficult. Only thing as an astrologer is difficult to say where the event is going to take place. And then, on a positive note, I think it is Ethiopia, where they decided to have a treaty of uh, no longer fighting with each other. So sometimes it reverses whatever is happening. And Mars is going to be retrograde till 12th of January. So it's usually the start of the retrograde. And also, in Pakistan, Imran Khan was shot as well, the former prime minister. So, these energies are disturbed energies. So um, we can take care of ourselves. That is what it is. So next year, what you see is that Mercury has almost 4 retrogrades next year. That's in Mercury does 3 to 4 retrogrades, but Jupiter will do 1 retrograde every year from 4th of September to about end of December. It's a 4-month retrograde. Venus is retrograde, which I already showed you. Venus is going to retrograde in Leo, then retrograde back to Cancer, then go back to Leo. And Venus is 22nd of July to 3rd of September. Now, one of the things that I advise people not to get married during Venus retrograde, because Venus is the significator for marriage. So if you are planning a wedding celebration, then you don't want a retrograde Venus in your wedding chart. So then, sometimes people don't want to wait, they want a summer wedding, but definitely that's what I advise. And I don't feel that people should listen to me. That is up to them. My job is to give them the good planetary advice. And then we have Saturn retrograde 17th of June to 4th of November. So Saturn, the day it turns retrograde, the day it goes direct, their significance. And so, when it went direct just now, it was quite significant as well. So you can look at these retrogrades by transit. So that means that say I don't have any retrograde in my chart, but every year I experience the retrogrades by transit. So having their dates and knowledge is quite good. And then you can learn how to use them as well. Uh, then Saturn's stationary degrees are essential, as planets with those degrees in the birth chart will experience significant challenges. In 2023, Saturn will station at 13 degrees Aquarius on 17th of June to turn retrograde, and at 6 degrees 19 Aquarius on 4th of November. So what happens is Saturn is the big one and the most challenging planet. So on 17th of June, Saturn slows down and stops at 13 degrees of Aquarius. So suppose you have moon at 13 degrees Aquarius, or your ascendant at 13 degrees Aquarius, or any other planet at 13 degrees Aquarius, then Saturn is making a huge impact for you in 2023. And the same thing is where he stations on the way to go direct, because he slows down and he stops there and then he goes direct. So that is 6 degrees 19 Aquarius. That is his other thing in 2023. So so this is like the overall planning of what is happening. And once we have a yearly plan in place, we focus on the month, uh, noting any complicated dates and being very careful with what we are planning around those dates. So we are not being careful around other dates, but on complicated dates, you are being careful about um, planning. And sometimes you do things and then it is just a problem for you. So this is somebody asked about the eclipse now, but we can't talk about the eclipse without looking at what has happened in October, November 2022. And some of my students who are there, you have heard me before on this. So, but 22nd October, Saturn went direct in Capricorn. 25th solar eclipse in Libra, Sun is debilitated in a Ketu eclipse. Actually, 25th October is the day that the new Indian British Prime Minister went to meet Prince Charles, and he got confirmed as the Prime Minister on the eclipse day. So the fact that he got confirmed on an eclipse day, that is very significant, because that he is, I would say, inheriting a lot of problems. But 24th was Diwali. So that was post eclipse. That's the day it was announced, but that was Monday, but 25th was the eclipse day. Then 30th October, I think this was the most difficult one because Mars went retrograde in Gemini, and this was very difficult. But also at the same time in Brazil, Lula won the election and Bolsonaro lost the election. So, things that are happening around that time also right now, I think in Israel also had elections. So usually this whole eclipse season is full of surprises and changes. And I think I've not been following the Israel election, but I think Netanyahu is going to form a government. And the main thing is that we don't know how you can make as many thought process. When you actually look at it, you don't know what is going to happen. Uh, so um, uh, so November 5th, the Mercury Ketu conjunction. So today we are on November 6th. And November 6th is, moon is with Rahu. I showed you the chart already. So tomorrow is the lunar eclipse in Aries. And for us in USA, that is a big political event because that's the day of the midterm elections on November 8th. And you see, normally if I had, um, you know, if I had a choice, I would say that don't do the election on that day. But USA always has the election on the second Tuesday of, or the first Tuesday of November. So they have that fixed date and they don't choose the time of election. So therefore, whatever comes, we have to take that. But we have a lunar eclipse on that day, which is quite rare. It's a full moon. Now, the big plus point of that is that a lot of people have started voting 2-3 weeks before. But look at the whole story of this challenging October, November, that there's a lot of upheaval, I would say. And it's not necessary who wins or who loses, but I would say that definitely this is going to be a lot of upheaval. And generally at a lunar eclipse, things happen on the day. So we don't know what that is going to happen. And so the lunar eclipse in tomorrow, the eclipse. So this is the challenging November. I have the chart here. You can see that Sun Ketu conjunction on 5th of November. Mercury is also there. So this is for me. I live in Northern California, so I just made for California. But you see here, Saturn is aspecting this whole energy by the 10th aspect. And what you can consider is consider it as a learning experience, because Saturn from Capricorn is aspecting Jupiter in Pisces. It's aspecting all these planets in Libra. You should look at it and see what are the things that happened historically, what happened more nearer home, people, that is the thing that you can see whether there was any influence, but also weather patterns. I think on the eclipse day, 25th, there was a earthquake here in Northern California in Santa Clara, 5 point something. So, there's a lot of unsettled energy, and that is where we have to be aware of it. And then you can go to closer planning of anything, and let us look at this week to look at the closer planning. So now we are going for a weekly situation, and so we have looked at the month. We know basically the month is difficult. And so here we see now, so this is now looking at the week starting 6th of November to 13th November. So this is what we want to look at generally, what is happening. So moon is with Rahu, and if we go one day later, so basically the eclipse is happening. I have the dates here. So the eclipse is happening, those of you in California, it's happening at 2:16 a.m. on 7th of, uh, 8th. So it's early morning, 8th of November. So the full eclipse, the eclipse starts before that, you can see, and then maximum eclipse will be at 2:59 and it ends at 3:41 a.m. So this particular aspect tomorrow night. So today is 6th and we are doing a seminar on 6th, and tomorrow night and 8th morning in USA. UTC, the maximum eclipse is at 10:59. So this lunar eclipse that we are going to experience tomorrow, and here I'll just show you the chart here. So the eclipse takes place not on the moon Rahu conjunction, but the exact opposition of the exact full moon, full moon. So here we see that the moon is full around 2:32 here. I'm just going a little bit more, because the sun is 20 degrees 52, so moon has to go 21 degrees 52. So moon has to go 21 degrees 52. There it is, approximately. You can see this is, so the exact full moon will be around 2:59, 2:49. So you can see that there it is. So now the thing is this, that you know that this is going to be, today is okay, but tomorrow is a difficult day. And so therefore I realized that tomorrow may be careful, and then going out tomorrow night you need to be extra careful, because it's an eclipse night, and especially in USA and all through South America as well. So this whole belt, the eclipse is fully visible. And some parts of Canada, that's going to visible even the exact start to the exact end. So therefore, the tomorrow, as a planning for this week, you know that that is something that you do need to watch for. And then if we just look at it at a day at a time, you know, usually post eclipse we feel very light, and the moon is also exalted, so by Wednesday we are feeling quite okay. And then if we look a little bit later, you can see that 12th here, moon is going to be with Mars. So what is the effect moon Mars can do? Is that moon Mars can give you some sudden impulsive behavior. You can suddenly get irritable, angry with somebody. Not everybody will behave like that, but also 11th, you see, Venus has moved into Scorpio. And so this is quite significant here. And so if you are looking at the week planning, So once moon goes away from the Mars, I'm not thinking so much about Mars influence. And then here we see moon is in Cancer on 11th. So this 1 weekly planning, what you're thinking about this week, what is happening, this is important. And then we can look at, oh, sorry, I opened the wrong page. Excuse me. I have two things going on simultaneously. And then, you can look at, this is the solar eclipse of 25th of uh, October. You can study that to see what happened at that stage, what was happening in your personal life, what was happening in the bigger world, what other things that you can think about. And then daily transits. Although long term is knowledgeable, it's essential. Uh, uh, the daily experience and how we deal with it is most necessary, because if we don't deal with today, then what's the use of the bigger transit? There will be focus on daily closer experience from a bigger picture. Now, traditionally in India, the people used to follow the Panchang. They would look at what is happening and they would be very conscious of the day, what to behave, what to do. Now, one can't totally control your life and do everything according to the planning, but um, the daily we check the Panchang, moon's position, conjunctions, any other important signatures. So as we are seeing our daily transits for today, we already spoke about this, that uh, when we are looking at today, this is the big picture, because today we have the moon with Rahu. In a month, moon will go with Rahu one day, one day or 2 days, but mostly one day is the intense day. One day with Mars, once with Ketu, and once with Saturn. So those days are usually difficult days. Now, what I do is that I check on what is happening on the day, and but sometimes I don't know, but because this is my work, I look at the planets all the time. So if I have a bad experience, I will definitely look at what was happening, and I look back to see why did I have that experience. So if some event takes place, that something has happened, then I look at to see what is the difficult energy, why did this happen on that day, because that is what has informed my knowledge. Over the years now, is the only job. The more gray hair you have, the more knowledge you have. So I've gone through all these transits and experiences. So you see, we are coming up to the lunar eclipse. Some of you may be feeling perfectly fine. So don't make it worse. If you're feeling negative, then it's a good thing to do some mantra meditation, refocus your energy to doing something good, and especially if you're Libra, Aries, then it is something to think about and what to do. And so here we see that the moon is going to go towards Rahu. So we are not just planning for today, we are planning for tomorrow as well. Because tomorrow, this is the same time tomorrow at 2 p.m., moon is with Rahu, going closer to Rahu, and you could look at the exact time. So that means mostly when moon is with Rahu, the mind feels very unsettled. And I personally find that if I'm doing something, I keep myself occupied, being busy, then I'm not concentrating on what I'm feeling or what is happening. And of course, over the years, all the spiritual practices, the yoga, the blessings that have come from yoga, really, it's very, and the classical yoga that we learn at the Shivananda tradition, that has been really useful. But there's no point knowing that intellectually to exercise it tomorrow. That would be a good thing to think about what you can do your asana in the morning, do your good stuff. And then by the evening, the eclipse is there, and but we are sleeping. So maybe that's a good thing. It's happening, but avoid trying to go out. I remember going out one day to somebody's house many years ago, and we were watching having dinner. It was in India, and watching the lunar eclipse happening at this person's house. And then it turned out that this lady was manipulating against my grandmother. My grandmother was 90 at that time, and I was so upset about it, because she was doing something very petty and small, but the eclipse reveals something, and um, so we shouldn't have been sitting there. It was many years ago, but I remember that as it was yesterday. So usually, the eclipse be can reveal something to you about somebody or something. So it's good to be spiritual during that time. That is the main thing to consider. So what about, how do you experience crisis? So the things that you are looking for when we go through a crisis is Saturn, Rahu Ketu, eclipses, stationary planets, especially Saturn over natal planets. So like just now, Devi was asking about the station. So it has to be exact degree. It's like somebody sitting on your head. Especially Saturn is just sitting on your head endlessly. Right now, Saturn is 24 degrees of Capricorn. And for 2 months, he remains 24 degrees of Capricorn. So he's brings a lot of pressure. So that is, and then most important is lack of benefic balances. And benefic balances can also be created by you. How are you balancing your life? If your life, you're not creating balance or doing things, then sometimes you're just creating a difficult energy for yourself. So this is important to see that uh, what is it that you're doing, but sometimes they can be benefic balances as well. So Saturn is the big significator of sorrow. His transits bring suffering, create situations to test the metal. Saturn is aware of the debts owed due to previous karma. These are created by the individual, therefore must be repaid by them. So, the point is this: if you're having a Saturn transit, you can do something to repay your karma. So, and uh, there's a wonderful remedy. I'll talk about remedies in a minute, but karma yoga, that is a wonderful remedy that you can do. And Saturn's transit, Sade Sati, Ashtama Shani transit to the 8th house, Kantaka Shani, Saturn's transit to the moon, transit over 64th Navamsha, 22nd Rekana. These are advanced concepts, but basically, if Saturn is transiting on your moon, um, and right now, Sade Sati, this is a 7.5 year transit. So up to the most intense part of Sade Sati just now is for Capricorn moon from 24 degrees to 30 degrees. Then from January onwards, and Saturn in moon in Aquarius will get the intense part of Sade Sati. Ashtama Shani at this moment is for Libra moon or ascendant. Sorry, not Libra, Gemini moon or ascendant. And then if you're from January onwards, it'll be Cancer moon and ascendant. And Kantaka Shani right now is for Libra. And then from January onwards will be for uh, Scorpio. So Rahu Ketu transits, generally Ketu is tougher than Rahu, although exact Rahu transit will also create anxiety and worry. Crisis can happen if there is an exact opposition in the chart. Rahu Ketu transit at the same time. Let's say your Lagna is 15 degrees of Libra, and Lagna Lord is 15 degrees of Aries. That means when Rahu comes onto, Ketu comes onto the Lagna, Rahu will be exactly opposite. And I've seen this in many times, or you have a moon and exact opposite planet. One of my students, he had moon and Mercury opposite, exact degree. And when Rahu Ketu hit it, it was a big crisis for him. He made some wrong judgment mistakes. There was a big scandal after that. It was very complicated. So therefore, if you have those planets naturally in your chart, exactly opposite, that means there's a potential. And the potential is only if you're not doing anything about it. You see, that's the thing, that you must be doing the remedies, which I'll talk about in a minute. All planets, Lagna, etc., can experience eclipses once every 9 years or so. Main thing to understand is if eclipses exactly on our important points or connection directly on problem areas combined with other challenging transits and dasha, they create a crisis. So, the planets are moving, life is moving, this is what I said right at the beginning. So these things are moving as we go along. But the main thing is this, that what are we doing to balance those things? If our life is out of control and the planet's out of control, then it is very difficult to steady the ship, so to say. So therefore, the thing is this, that eclipses happen all the time. So the Libra Aries are happening now. They'll go to Pisces, Virgo. So there's kind of continuous story that is there. So 2023 eclipses, just remind you that the April eclipses are in, the solar eclipses in Aries, the lunar eclipses in Libra, opposite to what is happening now. But the 14th October solar eclipse goes into Virgo. So Virgo starts experiencing, and the lunar eclipse is still in Libra, still in Aries, sorry, 28th October, it's still in Aries. So we have still the Libra Aries axis is more dominating, but next year then Pisces Virgo axis is there as well. And so the most important thing is that what are the balancing factors? What is the strength and support from Jupiter? The role of dasha plays, good dasha bhukti will be also supportive. But sometimes what is happening is you are having a hard transit and your dasha is changing, and Lagna Lord is in a difficult position. Then at times it's just worth waiting for a few days, the transit to unfold itself and move on. But sometimes we feel I have to do something right now, then that becomes more complicated. um, so um, the final part of this talk is that we use upaya or remedial measures to help us deal with the difficult times. The best upaya is yoga. Really, the path of yoga, the satsang, the chanting, the meditation, if you can bring that into your life, those are, you're all already following that, so I don't have to teach you that. But you see, that builds up your resilience over time. So I remembered starting at a very young age to do it, but it took years before, that um, regular practice was helpful and supportive as well. So Jyotish Upaya is done to balance the birth chart, deal with the difficult karma, dashas and transits. So you could say that if you are having a challenging transit, those of you don't know, then you have to have a consultation with somebody. But if you know yourself, you know that this is a difficult time or difficult transit. Then you know that you need to do some upaya. So it's done to balance the birth chart, deal with the difficult karma, dashas, and transits. The start of this is managing the planetary managing the natal plans, uh, planets, sorry, dashas and transits. So for example, it's managing. You can't control them. They are energy. So we have to learn how to use them positively and how to manage them. Be aware of the kriyamana karma, the free will. So you have to take care of your future. And we can't take care of the past because what you did yesterday is already done. So we can take care of the future, making the right choices, being aware of the karma you create daily, monthly, yearly. Wise use of Panchanga and Mahurata, following a dharmic path, doing the right thing. If there's something complex you have to decide, take time about deciding it. And I think that the most significant crucial factor is that choices you make today influence your future in this life, the next life, the next life. So it's today that you have to do correctly, because what was done yesterday, we have to deal with it now. We already did it, or even this morning, that is already done. But you have to think that any choice I make now has an impact on my future. And I can tell you that a lot has changed for myself. So I'm not just talking, but because once I became aware of this crucial point, that the choices I make today are going to impact my future. So don't make them casually. Even when you're doing all the upaya, we should be aware how the planets could disturb our energy, therefore block the path to our good practices. Most often, it is during these troubled planets that people are not thinking correctly. And by people, I mean you and me, all of us, not just, I'm not excluding myself. Our thought process is not correct. We are thinking that, making something that this is what I should do. And but also we can start doubting, why is this karma we do, what is the usefulness of that? That is no good. So therefore, when you're doing these remedies, then you can stop doing them because you think they're no use, and therefore all the support you got, it doesn't go away, but then you have to restart and redouble your effort. And so making the right choices, doing the right thing at right time is important to fortify the chart. Do not plan important events on difficult planetary conjunctions, like marrying on a Mars Rahu conjunction or moon. You know, people come to me, I do consultation also, they come to me about difficult marriage situations and all. And then I look at their chart, I always ask them if it is a marriage, when did you get married? And you see that they moon is with Mars, or all the planets are together, or some lot of different combinations I could name. And people haven't thought that through, that how important that event is. And as I said, Venus should never be retrograde at a marriage chart. Sometimes, without planning, you choose the right date. I was talking to somebody who's married 25 years, and I looked at their wedding chart and it was perfect. And she was not into astrology and hadn't planned it, but they just randomly picked the perfect date, and they are, still together, having a good relationship. Sometimes, like in Rishi Sunak's case, he became the prime minister on an eclipse day. So therefore, there's some issue there, he has become, but he has the whole country's problems on his shoulders. So, but when you're voluntarily planning something on a day that is, it is a good idea not to plan on, on the day when there are difficult planets. So like I was showing you this October, November, then it's best not to plan for that. After this 8th of November, things get much easier. So you can choose. Uh, so the awareness of the overall quality of your life You need to know the levels of your dasha, any major changes, planning for Sarasati, yearly planning. These are the awareness you need to have. This is why, studying astrology is the best gift you can give yourself. I think of my life before Jyotish, after Jyotish. I was 1979. I started studying Jyotish. It totally transformed my life because I could see what was happening. I could look at myself, I could get all these various awareness that is there. Keeping the mind calm. Remember, all transits impact the mind, therefore doing remedies to calm the mind is essential. uh, Moon is the mind, keeping it calm, focused on daily practice, daily sadhana. Moon's transits will affect the mind. Waxing, waning, conjunction on a monthly basis with malefics and eclipses. So like now, next 2 days is really complicated with the eclipse and all that energy. So you are keeping yourself focused on sadhana, on your good practices, because very often the good practices go out of the window when the transits are not so good. Mm. So there are two types of remedies to be done for a steady, calm mind. We do the yogic practices, including meditation, asana, following the 4 paths of yoga, mantra, japa for Saturn. Uh, Practice them yourself. You see, you are not doing um, listening to something. Nowadays you can listen to all the mantras online on YouTube or other things. You must practice yourself. The sadhana is to be done yourself, not just listening to it. Lifestyle choices and practical remedies, um, and simplifying your life. The crucial step in dealing with transits is to simplify your life. Think of what is superfluous, consciously remove it or reduce it from your life. Sometimes we can't remove everything, we have to be realistic. But think about what is superfluous, what is, you know, having unnecessarily expectations, burdens will complicate. It may not be possible to change everything completely, but start making a progress towards it. Learn to say no to excessive activities, travel, socializing. Take time to enjoy simple things in life. One of the things, we burden ourselves also. And every year, maybe on your birthday, you should think, what is the superfluous I'm doing? What is the extra burden? What are my expectations? Rather than having a bucket list not a good idea, because you are adding to your karma. You think, okay, what can I reduce? What can I simplify? Some of you very young, you still want to enjoy life, but we are talking on a more spiritual basis. Even at a young age, you can make it better without having superfluous expectations or unnecessary burdens that you have. Um, so lifestyle choices, make healthy lifestyle choices. This could be your food, relaxation, sleep, living environment, work you choose to do, a good routine for the day, times to get up, sleep, meal times, relaxation time. Think of it as long-term goal that you're going to improve the quality of your life. You see, the Vedic knowledge is huge. We have Ayurveda, we have the whole yogic concept, we have Vastu, we have all sorts of Jyotish, all sorts of things that are helping you to live the life. And what Swami Shivananda said, the 5 steps, those are also important. You can take that into mind as well. But don't just study it intellectually, follow it. So think about the lifestyle choices that you're making. Food is a very important strategy to deal with transits. That food fuels our health, mind, and well-being. Especially your moon gets affected by food. Keep regular meal times, eat natural seasonal fruits, and avoid eating fast foods. And by fast food, I mean there's a lot of good fast food as well. But if you need to eat fast food, choose the healthier options. Overly spiced food stimulates our senses and desires, which we are trying to restrain. However, overstimulating senses are not always the best to deal with the transits because you're over hyped up. You know, when you go to the ashram, all the food is without salt and spice, so you enjoy the natural quality of the food. So that when you're eating spiced food, too much spiced food all the time, you are over stimulating. So I'm not saying just change every little thing in your life, but just be conscious of it, and you can slowly start uh, reducing. Then restraint. Restraint in all actions is essential. Restraint is part of a spiritual practice where we learn to control our senses and desires. This is pratyahara. I think that's the right. We should be conscious of our desires, learn to regulate them. This is essential during challenging planets. You know, um, if the planets are very challenging and you need to you need to restrain yourself, because sometimes the desire is, oh, this is the time I must do things, so you have to wait till they go away. So therefore that quality of restraint, over the years you learn not to react either to too much joy or too much sorrow. You know, you learn this whole concept of restraint. And then donation. Donating to the right causes is considered one of the most important remedial measures. You can donate your time, support money to worthy causes. Make the world a better place for others is an excellent way to cleanse your karma. If you cannot afford it financially, give time. Supporting the poor, giving education, knowledge are two worthy causes. You see, political donation is not a donation. That is something you like, you want to donate. Feeding the poor is one of the best remedies to do. You can feed the poor by donating food on your birthday, wedding anniversaries, other special occasions, donating food to a food bank, or doing annadanam. Annadanam is donation of food at a local temple is a good choice. Annadam means donating food. It is done by feeding devotees at a temple. Most temples have a regular program for it. You know, I went to the Livermore temple the other day and they said, would you donate for Annadan? So I did donate, because I didn't know they do Annadan, but they were doing a special festival for 14th of January. So they wanted donation. So I was happy to donate, because this is something that, you know, you can donate food. Sometimes supermarkets ask you for food donation. You can take it yourself physically. Be sure to make a vegetarian choice, because if you donate meats and all, then you are taking that karma on as well. Then best remedy is karma yoga. Selfless service with no expectation of reward. It's the best thing you can do. Karma yoga, you know, you do have to bring it into your life. That means that you are open to making effort and giving back to society, and doing something without expectation. I mean, the highest concept is that you do something without total expectation of reward. But it's even if you start doing things where you are giving back to society, and karma yoga is done at the ashrams also. You can offer to do karma yoga at the LA ashram as well. Um, seva is service, doing seva to elderly parents. Seva can be done at temples, spiritual organizations, other voluntary work for good causes. It is like karma yoga. We give service without expecting rewards. So that is it for today. Thank you very much.